I'll call the meeting to order.
The meeting has been posted according to open meeting laws.
Roll call.
President Johnson.
Here.
Trustee Renucci.
Here.
Commissioner Arndt.
Here.
Commissioner Hayes.
Here.
Commissioner Lederhouse.
Here.
And Commissioner Morath. Here. Thank you.
All right. It's another exciting Plan Commission meeting for the Village of East Troy. We're going to open citizen participation. I'll read something here. I would just ask, there are a number of items on the agenda that have public hearing portions. If you're here to speak on one of those, I would ask that you hold your comments until then, because it will be more appropriate at that stage. When we go into those public hearing portions of the meeting, the only comments that we can take are during that for that particular item. Of course, you're welcome during citizen participation to speak on anything else on or off the agenda that you have. So I'll read our standard stuff here about limitations. Per Village Resolution 2017-01, anyone wishing to address the Plan Commission during citizen participation will be allowed 5 minutes. Your subject can be anything, whether on the agenda or not. The Plan Commission should not engage in a discussion regarding comments because it was not part of the publicly noticed agenda. Upon conclusion of the citizen participation segment, members of the audience are not allowed further comment unless they're participating in a public hearing or specifically allowed by majority vote of the Plan Commission due to involvement in an agenda item. So that said, anybody has comments, step up, state your name and address, please. I'm sorry, you have to, yeah, so we can, and I just ask that we do that just because we also are streaming this so everyone can hear.
There we go. Daniel Donegan, 2110 Mill Street. Are you going to allow open discussion on item agenda number 14? It just says discussion. It doesn't say public hearing.
There is no public discussion on that. So
Okay,
if you have
that's fine.
comments now would be the time.
All right, perfect. Looking at this project as proposed, it looks like the developer is looking for an additional 15 feet of roof height and triple the density per acre that's allowed for residential dwellings in that area. And also would have to be a zoning change. There's a couple of really important things to consider here. This type of product is in big demand in our community, and I'm not opposed to this type of housing being put into the community. But there are pros and cons to these types of things. There's nothing in the developer's proposal as to propose rents for this development. It also does not say if the units will all be the same size or whether they'll be mixed sizes. Based on common planning numbers, we're looking at rents in the range of $1,800 to $3,000 a month for these units. The pros to that is people who can afford that want to be here. They also spend an additional $8,000 in your average community in downtown restaurants, residential areas, so that's a real plus. The downside is that's probably double to maybe 2.5 times the residences sitting right next to it. And that creates a very obvious problem for future development or improvements on those properties next door. Another con on that is the current building numbers. I'm sure Mr. Schweck, can verify this. It's average of about 2.3 people for one of those units. That means there's no kids. So what are we looking for in the community? To get more people in here or to grow a community? And that's a very important part of this. There's nothing around this property that's clear to 50 feet. And I'm not opposed to this, but I think we need to clamp that down a little bit because once 50 feet is there with the opposite and opposing zoning, it's allowed anywhere. And I don't know that that's appropriate to that site. And that site is going to be high challenge. Another question that I guess would be for maybe the emergency services, do we have an aerial truck capable of putting out a 50-foot building?
I think we'll address some of your questions in the
Okay,
discussion.
that's fine. But those need to be, I mean, there's clearly a demand for this type of product. I just don't think, as proposed, this is the proper site. That's an awful lot of height and that's an awful lot of density for a small unit. So something more reasonable, I think, should be strongly considered. And I assume there'll be a public hearing once this gets closer to
Yeah, and
reality.
that, I will try to answer that just procedurally. This is an initial proposal.
Okay.
There would have to be further hearings and
Okay.
then also approval by the village board.
There's an awful lot of information missing before this should even be considered.
And to be clear, there is nothing being approved
Correct.
on this agenda. This
Correct.
is simply informational.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything you'd like to add for citizen participation?
Good evening, Anthony Benvenuto, W2292 St. Peters Road. So on this discussion of this property, I'm just curious on this, I guess it's 1415. Is there any additional monies, grants, anything coming from the village to help develop into this property, long-term tax advantages, sewer and water development? How's that going to affect back on the system, schooling, anything of that nature? Just wondering, long-term, I mean, it's a great property, and obviously, anywhere you look, you see these developments going on. If there's one, there's going to be five. There's plenty of area around here to develop it at. We look at Toronto, they got great expansion. So, just curious in the long part, where the effects, not just short-term, 30 years from now, it's a $100 million facility. What does it do for the community? Thank you.
Other comments during citizen participation?
Ted Zess, N8305 Weber Road, East Troy. Just speaking, I support this development of the Overlook Ridge development for a couple reasons. Number one, as a business owner in town, we'd like to see some modicum of growth going on in the community. Something like this, especially close to the square, is great for the businesses around the square. The other thing is from a school board member standpoint, this is a good opportunity for the schools not only to possibly bring more kids into the district, but also for everybody in the district to enjoy some property tax relief with more taxes coming in to both the district and to the village. So just reiterate that I support this development. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Other comments during citizen participation? Please. Oh.
Hello, my name is Vicki McCone. I live at 3019 Main Street, and I have a business at 2919 Main Street. And I, like Ted, want to just let you know that I'm very excited for this proposed development. As a resident, but also as a business owner, I think it's fabulous that we're going to have people being able to walk to the square, to participate in our events, and to obviously frequent our businesses. So I'm really glad that we're working on this, and having invested, like many people, having invested in our community, I am grateful that you are considering this development and moving forward, hopefully, with it. Thank you.
Thanks, Vicki.
Yep.
I'm Cynthia Dargitz, address W2292 St. Peters Road. My question is, they want to rezone it to being 50 feet high. Is that as high as the water tower? How high is the water tower?
120.
120? Okay, and then we just, with more people moving in, that many, that would be what, you said 145 units and 2.3 people in each unit. That means even though we just redid all these schools, now we're going to have to put more money into the schools, and now our taxes go up even further. And then how much is that going to increase the value of the town, which would then cause us to, our percentage in the county taxes to go up? And let's see, I guess, and they're talking about 4 acres. I think the Buchan, isn't that 1.2 acres? Where would the rest of the acreage come from?
The proposed development, several parcels combined, not just one. of
Oh,
those parcels.
okay, so they're on a contingency to buy if this goes through, those businesses next to them?
The developer owns several vacant parcels, and it's more than 1.4 acres.
Oh, okay. So there's no businesses on these properties of the 4 acres?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
And I, just as a reminder, I've been in your shoes sitting there going, why won't they answer the questions? I do appreciate you asking questions. We will try to address them in discussion, but as I read, it's actually, other than like points of fact like that, we're really not supposed to engage in a conversation with you, because what if somebody had a different opposing opinion? We can't get into that dialogue. So we really have to keep it pretty strict. Again, there's no decision being made this evening, so I do encourage you to ask your questions. Just if I sit here and smile at you and stare at you, it's not because I don't want to answer your question. I very much do. So other comments during citizen participation?
My name is Mike Zai. Am I on? Yep. And
Address, you got to give us your address.
my
Mike.
address is 1950 Fremont Street. And of course, I would rather see condos than apartments. I don't mind this. It's a great location. I think long-term a condo project would be better for the community. And at some point, Matt, it'd be maybe you did this already, I came in a few minutes late, is what the process is, start to finish, if this actually went all the way, just so.
Yeah, we can address that when we get to the item.
that'd be
I'll have
great.
Tim walk us through that.
Good.
Thank you, Mike. Other comments during citizen participation?
Hi, I'm Juliana Burmeister. I live at 1930 Center Street. I definitely have some mixed feelings on it. However, at the end of the day, I want to see this community still flourish, because my memories are no good if it's not going to be here in the future. I just hope that throughout all the discussions and everything going forward, that there is room for compromise. I think, looking back, I've got about 5 generations of family, dating back in East Troy, my grandparents' parents on St. Peter's Road. I looked for 2 years for a house in the craze of the housing market, because I refused to go anywhere outside of East Troy. Never thought growing up here, going to school here, swore I was going to leave, but it was the community that I wanted my children to grow up in. The small town feel is really something. It's a culture. It's amazing knowing that my son can go ride his bike down the streets and not necessarily have to worry all the time. There's always eyes on him. Now, I'm not saying a new development would take away from that necessarily. I do think that there is room for growth. We do need to support these businesses. However, I think at 4 stories high, right on Main Street, it really kind of kills that small town feel. So I guess I'm hoping that there's other opportunities or other parts in the village that could potentially be looked at if they're going to keep the 4 stories, or even doing something maybe a little bit smaller. I mean, it's right on Main Street. That's the drive right up into the square. And I just kind of picture going to see Santa on the trolley being a little bit different with that very, very large building passing every time. So, thank you.
Thank you. Other comments during citizen participation? Ann?
Ann Zess, 2905 Main Street, East Troy Brewery. We grew up here as well, and that's why we developed that property into the East Troy Brewery. Blood, sweat, and tears went into that business. And we support this development in order to continue to grow. And if we also need the customers and we also need the employees. So we are in full support of this development. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Other comments during citizen participation? Other comments? Going once? Going twice? Okay, I'm going to close citizen participation. We'll move on to item 6, approve Plan Commission minutes of August 14th, 2023.
Motion to approve.
Second. Second.
And I'm going to abstain because I was not here. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7, two-lot certified survey map for property located at 3022 North Street, RXUP 00019, Jamie Rohr, applicant, application 2023-21. You see the report there from Tim Schweike, and I believe the property owner's here if we have any questions.
I guess could the property owners just come up and tell us what they're planning?
Jamie?
I guess right now there actually isn't really a plan. My sister-in-law lives in the house and she wants to buy it, and so just thought it'd be a useful place for the future. That's about it.
Am I under the understanding, though, they want to split the property and make 2 buildable lots?
No, there's already it's one extra buildable. There's already a house on it, so it's just an extra buildable lot. And it's an acre big, so it's pretty big lot too. It's not like
Right, but the lot isn't separated right now, correct?
No.
Or is it?
no, that's the
Right, that's,
Yeah.
so we're proposing to take one large lot and make it into 2.
yes.
I understand. I had a question, Matt, on the, at least maybe for Tim. I saw in the topographical map, it seems like lot number 2 has got quite a low area. According to what I've seen, is there going to be a problem with drainage? Because I know if they're going to use it as a buildable lot, they're going to have to fill, and they're going to have to change the directions, or at least the dynamic of the groundwater flow. And I'm just curious if that's been looked at yet.
Well, you see that part of specific condition 1 that Tim outlines in his report is if there was any building on Lot 2, we would have to have the village engineer look at that to address any potential stormwater concerns.
I understand, I just was wondering if they had done any preliminary look at it, that's all.
If you got to, sorry, you should just stay up here, Jamie.
So the lot was actually made big enough that there's probably about, if you look at, I don't know if you put one in the sheet, but it's the depression happens probably about 60 feet over is where it starts. So if you had something like a walkout basement and you actually use the depression, it makes a more interesting house, in my opinion, rather than filling it in. I don't think you'd want to fill it in.
No, I understand, I mean, you have to make a viable lot for the building to sit, so, you know, the drain lines around the foundation can work properly. But as far as, like, if you want to walk out basement, that's fine, but what I was more concerned about was the drainage around neighboring properties and if that was going to be affected.
Well, just keep in mind that the ask in front of us is not to go build something on this lot.
We want to make sure that as part of the approval process, we're not creating a problem for a future property owner or for the village. So prior to actually recording the certified survey map that creates the parcel, they would have to work with the village engineer, and he would have to basically say that there's not going to be a problem in creating the new parcel.
Any other questions for the owner? What's the commission's pleasure?
So Tim, before this actually, like you said, gets certified, it's going to, the village is going to make sure it's okay first, engineering-wise?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I recommend the village board the approval of the certified map based on the general and specific conditions listed below.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Can you hit the button? Thank you.
So Jamie, this goes to the plan, or I'm sorry, the village board at the next week's meeting, so you're not quite done, but closer.
Okay, moving on to item 8, rezone the property located at 2010 Church Street, ROP 0008, from Highway Business, HB, to General Industrial, GI, McCreet LLC, applicant, Jeff McPherson, agent, application 2023-18. I will open the public hearing. Is there any commentary on this item? This would be now the time to make it. Yep, Mike, come on up.
I didn't realize it was on here. Could you explain it a little bit further?
Tim, could you?
So is the property owner here? Okay, you probably want to come up and just give a real quick history of what we've done so far and where this is all going.
Why we have the zone?
It's my understanding that we're rezoning because of my hoop house, is basically what it came down to.
Which is storage for the dump truck and
Trucks,
other
yeah,
trucks.
equipment, bobcats, correct. Yeah.
You have anything you want to add, Tim?
So this is not the first time we've seen this. Earlier this year, we went through the process of amending the comprehensive plan to show that this property was not going to be commercial, but light industrial. So that was approved, and now he's just following up with a rezoning. Again, the rezoning is going to be consistent with the comp plan. And essentially, he's got two properties that are, next to each other. He's operating it as a single business operation. And this, yeah, two different zonings. So now with a zoning, if it gets approved, will be operated or, have a single zoning classification, which is good. And then at some later date, then we'll look at the hoop house location and those things.
You good? Other questions or comments during the public hearing?
Thank you.
Last call. Any questions or comments during the public hearing for this item? Okay, I will close the public hearing. We'll move on to discussion and possible recommendation to the village board on this item.
Well, to me, it makes sense to at least, if there's two properties right next to each other, let's make them in consistent zoning with each other.
I recommend the village board the rezoning of the subject property is set forth in the ordinance dated September 7th, 2023.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, item 9, conditional use for outdoor display/sales per section 510-42E of the zoning code for property located at 2584 Main Street, RA 305700002. David August, owner, Dale Leisure, tenant, LTR Power Center, application 2023-14. I will open the public hearing for this item.
My name is Lois Clark, and I live at 2754 Frontage Road. I'd like to verify that this conditional use that I have here is the conditional use that you would be acting on.
Can you share that with us? I don't think this is the same tax key. Can we share this, Tim, with you, and you can confirm? This owner had a previous conditional use permit at their previous location, so this may not be, this is for a different.
This is the one I took, this is the one for Main Street. This is the one that you.
Oh, I see, okay, I saw your.
Supposed to be acting
yeah.
on, and I just want to make sure that there hasn't been any additions or
That's what's in the packet.
before I speak.
Yeah, this is what's in the packet, yeah.
This is the one you're going to.
Yeah, this is what's in the packet, yeah. I'm sorry.
Thank you. It's my understanding at this time, there is an indoor display equipment storage problem. If the certified survey, or if the conditional use is approved by this committee and sent to the village board and passed before the inside storage problem is solved, there are now more than 20 pieces of equipment displayed outside. They will be in violation of the conditional use if passed. The commission may be considered, the commission may consider either making a written amendment to the conditional use or let's see, or present this, or the situation should be described in item number 6, proposed use of the conditional use application. Either one of these ways should make for a good reference point. I believe this applicant has previously run this type of business and had conditional uses in other locations within the village. The Plan Commission needs to review Chapter 375, Property Maintenance of the Village Code, to see if there has been violations to previous conditional uses and village codes before considering this application as proposed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Other comments during this portion for this item for public hearing?
So again, is the property owner here and/or the tenant?
Yeah, if
Do
you
you
all
want to
want to come speak?
Yeah, I think the, as far as...
Sorry, just for the record, your name and address, please.
Yeah, Dave August. And I think that the, and I've been talking with the other previous tenant, which half of the building is still occupied by his items. But it seems like he's a little ahead of schedule. I know the last time I talked with you, he was waiting on one of the buildings out in the industrial park to get underway more so he could get in there. I guess there's been some progress on that. Some money's exchanged hands from what I understand. And he's thinking, I asked him about it, he said he's hoping that he can be out even early in October, which was a little ahead of schedule from what I thought. I know we had given some extra time in case the building doesn't get done and stuff like that, but it seems to be progressing fairly well. So we're anticipating him being able to leave, which opens up the other half of the building, which would accommodate the new tenant to be able to move more of his product line in that second half, which was, obviously the goal. We had set some limits on what outside things could be displayed. I think in my proposal, we should be able to adhere to that. And as far as any other violations I'm not aware of, so I guess you'd have to inform me about those in order for me to comment.
No, Tim, thought Tim had something to say. Okay, thanks. And then, Dale, do you have anything you want to add?
My plans are, when Brian gets out of the building, then I'm gonna make one half of it showroom and stuff, so there won't be nearly as much stuff outside. It's just right at the moment, we're kind of occupying both sides between the two of us, So we're gonna use the side he's on for our shop, and the other side I'm planning on making into a showroom and storefront, basically. So I'd still like to have some stuff outside, because it's pretty important to me to have things be seen. But there won't be near as much, So I guess that's all I can say.
So do you know what rough timeline of your vision?
The last time I talked to Brian is about the same as Dave said. He's a little ahead of schedule. I told him, I says, take the time you need. I was just pushed pretty hard to get out of where I was at, and I know what the feelings are. So, we're getting by on the side we're at, so. And before long, I'll be putting all the stuff away for the winter anyway. I got a storage barn over on St. Peter's Road that I put the stuff in for the winter, so there's pretty much not gonna be anything outside anyway, so.
So I know in the summertime, it's important to store things outside for displays. So what's your vision of like next summer? How many pieces are you looking at putting outside?
I would like the 20, be able to go up to 20. I'm not saying there would be. I've never had an indoor showroom, let's put it that way. So I don't exactly know how that's going to work out. I'm hoping that it works out really well, and then I won't have nearly as much stuff outside. When I put the stuff along the side of the building, it was like it brought the building to life, I think. So I guess that's where I'm heading for, but, I got to try it.
Do you know how many units are outside currently? Is it less or more?
It's
than
probably
20?
more right now. We just brought everything home from the county fair, and then I was supposed to be in Texas this morning, but this came up, so I canceled my plans. And I sent my daughter down there instead, so that's why it hasn't gotten straightened out altogether yet. But there is more out there right now, but it was all at the county fair. We brought it home, and it kind of just got parked, but.
Tim, to the timeline question, our property owner and business owner here came before the village board back earlier in August, and this was from a code compliance standpoint, and we talked through a timeline for achieving compliance. Should that timeline then be folded into any potential conditional use permit that might be approved here?
The short answer is yes. And I do, if you want to turn to page 4 of the draft conditional use, that's part of the packet there. Item number 18 does talk about the termination of the prior conditional use approval. So depending on, your direction, Plan Commission, Village Board, that language can be adjusted accordingly. I'm not sure what the timeline is.
If you could let Eileen pull it up on the screen. Can you say that again, Tim, where you were?
So it's after the application, I believe, way at the end. Okay, page 4 of that document. So I highlighted number 18, and again, that's the provision that addresses the issue about the termination of the prior conditional use. So that can be revised however you see fit.
Thank you, Dale. Any other questions or comments during the public hearing?
So if I may just ask a real quick question. So Dale, as part of the application, you're basically saying that there's going to be 14 lawnmower units out in front, plus 6 more
On the side.
on the side. I mean, that's what your application says.
That's fine.
Okay, I mean, we just want to make sure that that number is agreed upon, we all understand what it is, because obviously there's about 30 units out in front right now, so.
I would really like to have 20 out front. I mean, it's important. And then the 6 along the side, I mean, that comes and goes.
So are you talking 26 now, or are you talking 20 total?
I'll go with the 20. If that makes everybody happy, I'll do the 20.
I mean, I think we need to go by what's in the application here. So, okay. Yeah, we're still in the public hearing, so please.
Hi there, Anthony Benvenuto. I have no skin in this game, but I got to tell you, when I come around Dad coming into town, what's there, and I know what that'll look like future, because I have family members that have this kind of business. You look at the repair, the auto sales, and then over the tracks, you got all them cars, and granted that got cleaned up. I'm not sure what, at the end of the day, what he's going to put out there in the public viewing. Chances are going to look anywhere or any worse. In fact, I think it's going to enhance what them others existing already have there. So, just 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments during the public hearing, either from the board or from the audience?
Well, I was going to have a couple questions, though, in regards to code compliance, because I know in the past, we've had some concerns. I know in the past, Dale, we've had problems with some congestion in that alley behind your business, and a lot of junk being piled up back there, stuff. And what we don't want to see is have that happen out in the middle of Main Street there, where people can see it from 2 ways on 20 and ES. And so I'm hoping you're understanding that we're not going to allow that. I'm just talking in general, even behind the building, because the building behind there, you're still visible from Highway 20. So I just want to make sure that we have compliance with anything that we would ask of your business, that it's complied with.
I'm fine with it, but-
Especially in the inside. I know there was some go-arounds with the ventilation in your building because of the state, and it took an arm and a leg twist to get that ventilation put in properly.
No, it didn't. On the old building?
Yeah,
Let's keep,
I just want, I understand, Matt, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make sure that we start off on the right foot here, and that we make sure that we get compliance with what we're asking for, that's all.
fair question, let's keep it to the current property in hand. Thank you. Any other comments during this public hearing on this item? Okay, that said, all right, close the public hearing. Any other questions or discussion from the board?
I've got a couple of questions on the conditional use application. There's some writing on here. I don't understand what the question marks are for. I think it behooves us to ask why, so that we understand we're not going to approve something we don't, if there's a question about it.
Which items?
Page number 3, above item number 2, says the zoning for commercial. Do you know what that is, Tim? Dale, could you give us an idea of why the question mark at the top of the page? I filled that out. Oh, you did. Okay, I'm sorry, David.
Yeah, I don't know. My wife accuses me of doodling a lot. That could be it, but
I mean, if you had a question, a legitimate question, I'd like to know what it is so we can answer it for you,
Yeah,
so we don't
but-
have a problem later.
most of that was, I had an appointment with Eileen to sit down and go through this to make sure I understood it, so it might be left over from that note to myself to ask her about that. I don't even know what the question was or anything. Actually, that doesn't even look like my question, Mark, so it's way too neat. But yeah, I don't know if that was on there when I turned it in or not.
Oh, I appreciate that. Are we still discussing like with the site plan, Tim? On page number 3? This was in the packet that we got?
So just a point of order, was the
Okay.
public hearing closed?
Yeah.
Okay.
We need
So
to-
technically, the discussion is at the plan commission level here.
Yeah. So I think we clarified that one item, but if you want to discuss with Tim on the CSM, that's fine.
Well, I'm talking about this page, was that page 3? On the, there's the different hours of operation, employees, customers, and then there's items that say miscellaneous. I guess I had some questions in regards to the answers. Has the village approved a variance for the subject property? And it says yes, but I don't know if we approved the variance for that, did we? For this?
I believe there is a little check mark under 13, and again, we're looking at the site plan application.
Yeah.
So number 13, the first question was dealing with a variance, and he actually, put a little check mark in yes, but in the box said no. So there has been no variance with regard to this property.
But I thought the property got a variance when Pluis moved in. And we gave the variance for that property so that he could actually operate his business in there.
So this is the second time we've looked at this property kind of after the fact.
Right.
The first time when Brian moved in, he just moved in, and then we had to backtrack and, get conditional uses and so on and so forth. But here again, there was no variance at that time. So again, we're looking at the same property, second time around, different owner coming in, and we're looking at everything after the fact. So
Are you saying that there's no variance for this business?
correct.
Not for, okay, thank you.
Well, because it says, I apologize. I apologize, because it does say property.
Okay, I think we have Tim's answer, okay. Other items for the board to discuss. Questions for the zoning administrator? Okay. No, sorry, we've already, I asked. Sorry, Lois.
I guess, and under the miscellaneous again, there was a question, it's number, it's not numbered actually, it's just under 13. Will the proposed use create any detectable noise beyond the property boundary lines? I don't know, I mean, power equipment can be noisy, but it said no. I don't know, Dave, I guess you use things with mufflers, but
Okay.
And I guess the other question I had at the bottom of the page, will the proposed use involve any materials which could detonate by any means? And I guess the only concern I had was, Dale, are you going to be filling propane? I'm sorry? Yes, I plan on it. Okay. Right, but there's a no check there. No, I believe that's misleading.
If you would like to make a motion one way or the other here and would like to have the application cleaned up to, fix the issues that you've identified, Tim, is that acceptable?
So yeah, as part of your, discussion, you can certainly table the matter if you feel that the application needs to be, clarified, cleaned up. If there's any outstanding issues or questions, for the commissioners, they can be clarified at the next month's meeting, but that would delay approval.
Which application do they want to clean it up on? 2023-14 or 2023-15? Or is it both?
It's a question for you, 40.
Yeah, I couldn't hear him, I'm sorry.
To clean up the applications that apply for 2023-14 or 2023-15. There's two proposals in here. Both on page 3, bottom of the page.
Is that page 3 of the site plan?
The site plan is the next agenda item.
Okay, so the cleanup would be on 2023-14, right? Did you get that right?
I
Okay.
believe so.
All right. All right, I'll motion to approve. Village Board, recommend the Village Board approve the conditional use, subject to the terms in the draft condition use ordinance dated September 7th, 2023. As an additional item, the application needs to be cleaned up. Is it good?
So we can do that, but the other issue that we had talked about was the date that the prior
Oh, the
conditional
date.
use would terminate.
Okay.
Do we want to just approve this one and then come back and make another motion to approve the date?
No. So we have a motion as stated. Is there a second to that motion?
I will second.
Okay. I'll move to amend that motion that we include the timeline to achieve compliance as discussed with the village board in August.
I'll second that.
So just for my benefit, do we have a date for?
Motion that has been moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to item 10, site plan review for outdoor display/sales per section 510-42E of the zoning code for property located at 2584 Main Street, RA 305700002. David August, owner. Dale Leisure, tenant. LTR Power Center, application 2023-15. Given what we just discussed, I would hope we don't have further discussion. But if we do, speak now.
The site plan of operations for the outdoor display area as proposed, provided none of the lawnmowers units are stacked or elevated above the natural grade by any means.
A second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 11, conditional use for a restaurant, Culver's Restaurant, located at 2557 North Street, RA 446400002, East Troy Land LLC, J. Campbell, agent, application 2023-16. I will open this public hearing. Is there a? Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the version that's online, so if there's a, yep, thank you for the clarification. This is item 11 for application 2023-16, conditional use for restaurant Culver's. And we are in the public hearing. Any questions or comments during the public hearing for this item? Go ahead,
So in
Tim.
this instance, probably the petitioner should come forward and talk about their proposal. Obviously, again, we're talking about a conditional use for the restaurant and then also a site plan. So we can talk about those together because there's going to be a lot of details that kind of go back and forth. But we'll give the first opportunity to the petitioner to talk about the project in general and then kind of highlight some of the major points, both of the overall restaurant and then the site plan details.
Hi.
Hello. Jay Campbell, W735 Miramar Road, East Troy, and
Brianna Campbell, also W735 East Troy.
So, yeah, we're proposing to build a Culver's restaurant here in town. It's kind of been a long time dream of our families. I'm going to assume everybody's familiar with how a Culver's operates from a drive-through perspective, hopefully. So therefore, with the zoning that's on this property and with the drive-through, we need to apply for the conditional use for the operation of the restaurant.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion?
Well, when you talk about the drive-through situation, are you talking about parking all the time? Is that what you mean?
Yes, so in particular, the site plan, which is getting pulled up, ever since COVID, pre-COVID, just I guess give you a little bit of history, we've been involved I've been building Culver's restaurants for 25 years. I've been a Culver's owner and franchisee for about 12 years. Pre-COVID, in the world of Culver's, basically 35% of the food went out the drive-through window, 65% of the food was typically consumed in the restaurant. COVID, that did a complete flip. Now, on average, 65% of the sales go through the drive-through window, and only about 35% of the sales happen inside and people are dine-in. So when you see our site plan, and just about every Culver's there is that we're building nowadays automatically has a double drive-through, similar to a Chick-fil-A or other quick service restaurant models. So we've designed this property with that double drive-through in anticipation, being an interstate location, probably having a lot of business come through the drive-through window. So on purpose, when we did our site plan layout and when we positioned the building, we wanted to try to ensure that drive-through stacking wouldn't be an issue. I'm sure you've all been at and visited different quick service restaurants where the drive-through line can back all the way out through the parking lot out into the road. That will never happen with this location, just the way we've designed the drive-through and the stacking. You're familiar with the Culver's, hopefully you're familiar with the Culver's, that you typically go to the drive-through window, you pay, you do the transaction, you get your drink, you get your custard, then you get a number, they ask you to pull forward. So in this particular design, on the bottom of the page, it would be that pull forward portion. So most Culver's restaurants that we build throughout the country, at most, the drive-through, the entire drive-through lane from that first car forward stack that you've told to go pull ahead through the whole drive-through lane, and then the order waiting to come up to the speaker post to order. Typically, that's 25-ish stalls altogether. This restaurant is, I believe, 47 is the figure that we could fit 47 cars in some facet of our drive-through operation before it would even spill out into our own parking lot, much less it into an entranceway or out into the highway. So that would be wildly successful if we had that type of volume, and we're hoping it's busy, but I don't think it's going to be that busy is the reality of the town that we're in and the size marketplace that we're in. So we've tried to take all of that into account with this design that you have in front of you. My daughter Brianna is here with me because she is part owner of the restaurant, and she is also, I'll throw in, an East Troy High School graduate, and she will be the general manager operating this restaurant on a daily basis. So I'm here for construction stuff, she's here for operation stuff.
It's helpful, thank you. We're still in the public hearing.
So I was curious if you did any traffic studies on the traffic pattern that'll be in that area.
We did, as part of the approval for the DOT. We had to do a traffic study. And that's been presented, I believe, even to the village, that's been presented, and that has been approved by the DOT.
Did you find you'd get more ingress, egress on 20 or ES?
Well, I was going to say,
Is this north on the right-hand side going vertically? Is that north?
yes, because that's North Street at the very top there.
And then dollar store is on the top side of it?
To the right,
To the right of it, okay.
if you're looking at the same one.
Yep.
I'm sorry, to the left. Dollar General is
That's what I was wondering. Okay, thank you.
There are a lot of lines.
There is, yeah.
Mike?
Does your lot size compare, how does it compare to Upward?
Well, I'll just repeat for those online. How does your lot size compare to others in Mukwonago?
Most Culver's restaurants are built on anywhere from usually about 1.3 acres is the max, so we're considerably larger than your typical Culver's restaurant site.
Other questions during this public hearing?
So I'm just curious, so this will be bigger than McGuanago building-wise? And
The-
occupancy-wise?
No, it'll be about the same occupants as McWanago. Lot size is bigger, yeah, considerably bigger on lot size, but building occupant size, McWanago is actually a little bigger than what this will be.
So with your traffic study, you don't see any issues of cars spilling out onto the road, lining up for,
No. If that happens operationally, we're doing a horrible job inside the restaurant, quite honestly.
Is there an entrance on ES, you said?
Just for those online, the question is there an entrance on ES?
Yes.
Can you scroll down?
There you go.
Is it a shared entrance?
It is a shared entrance with the bank, and yes, there is an easement. We are working on modifying an easement to match up exactly what you have drawn, because the easements that were originally created for this parcel envisioned that this parcel was going to have access to Main Street, but the easements weren't done quite properly. So we've had to do some modifications with them, and we are working on getting an updated easement executed with the bank currently.
That was going to be one of my questions, because it showed the traffic pattern kind of for semis or delivery trucks were
Yep.
going to be very difficult. And I'm glad to hear that. You're going to try to fix the problem before it arrives.
Yeah, the site plan you have in front of you is the best fix we can make for the problem. We understand, we did run the truck turning radius through there, and it is tight. If a semi-tractor trailer is going to get out that entrance that's shared with the bank, it does make it, but it is very tight. Our deliveries will be key drop deliveries, so those will happen in the middle of the night. The food service provider will have a key drop. So, we don't expect semi-traffic during operations on a daily basis.
And Jay, I guess just for bearing, the item to the building there to the east is the bank, and then to the west would be the dentist office, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the bank, and that's Wanasek Dental.
Okay.
I just have one other question. So on the easement on the bank, again, I have no experience of this. So is there any parking going to be eliminated then on the entrance for the bank?
No, their existing bank parking lot is unaffected by the easement. We basically go around them.
Other questions during the public hearing?
Can I just see the top again? Can you point out where the entrance is off of North, please?
So I guess, Jay, can you talk a little bit about that?
Just that one
Sure.
entrance off of
Correct, which is the existing entrance to the Shell McDonald's. That's it, that is basically our lot line splits that entrance currently. So right now, everybody that goes to McDonald's actually accesses McDonald's through our land.
So is that going to conflict with the McDonald's drive-through then?
No, we don't believe so. I mean, again, the traffic study's been done, we looked at it. That's 35-foot width entrance and egress right there into our lot, which is also one of the reasons we're giving the second ability to, and, I mean, the village really is who requested and brought up access to Main Street. When we first started talking planning, I don't know that that's necessary for the site development, to be perfectly honest, but we wanted to try to comply with what the village wanted for this parcel. So that's what got us to get the design to get us out to Main Street as well. As well as enter in off of Main Street.
So they enter in on the same way as you enter in on Bank? That same drive?
Yeah, so I guess,
Yes.
can you, yeah, so I think on the ES side,
It is the existing curb cut. We're not modifying any curb cuts, so the existing entrance to the bank, right now you can turn in that entrance, go straight to the bank, or you turn right to go to McDonald's. Now, well, and yes, we'll be adding a left turn, basically.
Essentially, it's going to be a jog, correct? You're going to turn into the drive, you have to turn right, then turn left.
Correct, yeah, it's
That's
a
where-
hairpin turn.
That's where the tight part's going to be. Because
It is.
according to the drawing I have, there's an island with a drive between the parking curb to the east. The bank driveway. If you drove
Yep.
straight into the bank
Yes,
and you were going to park there by the front door, there's a curb to the right. You see it right there?
mm-hmm.
Okay, now, are you going to be traveling, there's another island,
Yeah,
right there, there's an island. Are you traveling between those two?
We're eliminating that extra island, if I can come up to the screen and point. That's helpful. So, that island that you see right there, that gets demoed out, and that becomes our access road. So that's currently, pointer. Jim, I'm stealing your pen. Thank you. So, that's the bank drive-through lane.
Right.
For all of you nuts, that's the bank drive-through lane currently, and this is the island that he's referring to. That island gets demoed out, and that's how we create our entrance and egress.
What, the concern I have is clearing, if a semi were to pull in that drive, though, to make a right to then go left, to go into your place, that part of the land, right here, this part here, when you pull off ES and you got to turn this way to come in, do you have any plans at all to fix this so that you don't have to make such a goofy turn?
We do not.
Do you think you,
Correct, deliveries are day cabs. 48.
all right. Well, I've seen Fox River trucks that are pretty
all right, okay, so,
And, I mean, we understand we've been at this process for over a year to come up with this site plan. There's many constraints that we don't have time to get into tonight between True North and McDonald's. Obviously, they're not jumping up and down that we're coming, so they're not super cooperative. So some of the items that you're referencing, they'd have to participate with, and they're not willing. I'll admit, and I've admit to the village staff, I'm not crazy about this design, but the bank also has to participate, and what you have in front of you is the only thing I can get the bank to agree to. So there's just been lots of constraints to get us to this point, and I'll go on record for our operating entity to say, in the event, in the future, if that's a problem and a pinch point, leave it open. We will come back and address it and modify. We understand, we don't want to create a problem. And if it's something we have to revisit down the road, we'll fully cooperate with the village to rectify it.
That makes a difference.
other questions or comments during the public hearing? Going once, going twice. I'm
So
sorry, Tim?
probably you want to keep the public hearing open so that if there's any comments, questions as you are, talking about it a little bit further, we can get answers from the petitioner.
Any questions from the board for the petitioner?
Oh, I did have a question here. I happened to write them down. I know that with the parking area you have and everything, and I wish Jason were here because he would be able to answer it, because I don't know. But my question was, where the stormwater runoff that's going to come in, where is that planning on going? Is that going to be going to the pond that's down behind the road ranger? From that lot and from the additional paved area where it was field?
Yes.
Okay, and I guess the other question I had, Eileen, is that pond going to be large enough to now service all of that? Or are we going to have to make that pond bigger?
We do have the village engineer here. Tim?
Yeah, so the site plan that you see up there does have 4 biofiltration stormwater areas, bioretention areas. So they are handling their own stormwater on the site.
Okay, that helps a lot. But you understand what my concern was?
Sure.
That the more paved area we put in, if it's going to drain down to that retention pond that we have
Correct.
down, then we could have a problem.
Yeah, and so as proposed, they have a lot of, it's strictly biofiltration, which filters the water and then using infiltration. So much of the water is going to be infiltrated. Their calcs do show a reduction from pre-developed to post-developed runoff, meaning that after construction with the controls in place, there should be less water leaving the site than there is today.
So if we can come back to that, what I'll call pinch point, it's basically identified in the staff report on the second page. Again, it's that jog. The applicant has basically said, they recognize that it's a potential problem, and it is a problem. And, he made the statement that he's willing to, after the fact, make corrections. I'm not quite sure how we can operationalize that to say, something has to be done and agree what the solution is. So it's one of those things that you don't want to create a situation again where you're creating problems without any potential solutions, potentially. The engineer, Tim, I believe you kind of, at the staff level at least, thought about some ways to kind of, more align that traffic flow?
Yeah, a couple things. So on the truck turning movement, the fact that the deliveries are at night becomes much less of a concern. My bigger concern is some of the cross traffic and how do we control that? You've got a lot of conflicting directions with traffic coming 2 ways from the McDonald's property, 2 ways from the bank and dentist's office, and then also going north and south along there. So there's just a lot of conflicts there. One of the things I was thinking about is possibly doing some stop control on the southbound movement as being a potential to help. Also looking possibly at realigning to the north there a little bit to have the intersection come in more of at a 90-degree intersection instead of at the skew that is as shown. That said, I think that it's something we probably could work through with the developer and their engineer.
But keep in mind, now you're talking going on to McDonald's land.
Actually, I was talking about going towards the bank.
Okay, then I misunderstand what you're saying.
Yeah. Basically, what I was looking at, and I don't know if it would work, and somebody had to be obviously engineered out, is as you're going to the north, where you can see the shaded area, where currently it's paralleling the McDonald's drive-through. If that could be taken to parallel the bank's parking lot, so that that driveway could come in more of a 90-degree angle, so that as somebody's going south, they can look to see if there's oncoming traffic a little bit better to their left. That's something I think may help. Now, it doesn't help the truck turning movement, but again, I think that's a pretty small issue compared to the the traffic and the day-to-day operation, as there's a lot of people coming in and out of this intersection.
I just want to restate what I think you're saying. You're less concerned, given the time of night, that you've got truck traffic, and more that I'm trying to go one way in my car, you're trying to go a different way in your car, and we don't know which way to go, and that's why you're looking at like stop signs and other.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. That's where I think some stop control would really help. Also possibly looking at the skew on this thing to see, okay, can we get this at more of a 90-degree angle that is easier for people to navigate? Makes it more stop controlled, slows it down instead of somebody kind of trying to jog right through without really checking to see, hey, if there's oncoming traffic coming in one of the conflicting directions.
Any comments, Jay, on that?
No, we're open to look into it again.
And kind of reiterate in terms of access, off of 20, that's going to be the primary point of ingress. It's not going to be used for egress out of the property. So people are going to be coming in from the north, they're going into the restaurant, and then theoretically, they have to go out ES. So, theoretically, a good percentage, again, of all the traffic is going to be coming through, and people are trying to go north into the parking lot. So it's not only the curvature, it's basically the volume of people coming and going, and with the cross traffic. So it's a recognized problem. As part of the Alta survey that they did before they even started, there is an easement between the dentist office and the bank that is a 24-foot easement that was intended when the lots were created to provide a secondary point of access to ES. Eileen, if you could go to the overall site plan. Yep. Scroll down a little bit more. So again, on the south, on the left-hand side is a Wanasek Dental. Bank is on the right side. In between, there's a 24-foot wide easement that is also laid out as a utility easement, which is problematic. But if that easement could be used as an exit only, I think that would reduce the number of vehicles having to traverse that skewed intersection. And it would align quite well with existing parking lot layout. So if that's on the table as a potential solution, I think if, the petitioner is willing to work with the, village engineer, at that pinch point, and then, consideration of the exit-only access through that easement, I think it would be workable. And maybe it's one of those things that we put into a developer agreement as part of the overall approval, kind of laying out the concerns and, some expectations that if there's a problem as identified by the village engineer, then corrective action would be taken, and the two solutions would be to redesign that intersection, and then also utilize that 24-foot wide easement for a exit-only access point.
I just highlight for the commission, there is in the packet public comment received from that property owner stating his comments on this. Should we read that into the record, or is this sufficient?
I would read it. It's part of the public hearing process.
So from Tom Wainizek, Family Dentistry, 2564 Main Street, submitted September 6, 2023. I'm unable to attend the hearing on September 11th, but would like to add a couple of comments if possible. One, I am hopeful the entrance and exit plan for the site remains as planned, with entrances that are on the east side of the development. When going through the review process for my dental building, the consensus was that the traffic flow around the west side of the bank with the drive-through was unsafe to handle cross-traffic in that area. Two, in regards to the landscape plan, I'm in favor of trees on the southern border with my property that will help screen out the parking lot and congestion that will likely ensue. Most of my dental operatories face north and have a direct view of the future parking lot and building. Any additional coniferous trees that will enhance the aesthetics of the site and provide a natural border with my property would be favorable. Thank you for considering these points. I believe there's also, though, some utility issues in that additional easement that we're discussing here from We Energies. Is that right?
That's correct, but it's nothing that can't be overcome.
We're still in a public hearing. Other questions or comments? So once we close the public hearing, we can't. Yeah. Sorry, Mike, I just, for people at home, can you?
Could you put the arrow on the exit onto Highway 20 again, and who is exiting there? Is that the only exit for Culver's on Highway 20? And the gas station is using that same, or does the gas station have their own exit? What's the answer?
Jay?
I'll explain it. Eileen, if you don't mind, maybe going to a site plan that shows just the entrance. There you go. So that is the existing entrance as it's constructed today to access the Shell and the McDonald's right there. So currently, if you're coming to McDonald's or leaving McDonald's, you're going through that exact exit and entrance that's built today. There's an easement that was put in place. Could you drop your, right at the turn of that radius in our parking lot, Eileen, so there is an access egress agreement in place between our property and the McDonald's property, right there, okay? So, Eileen, please move the cursor down just a little bit, stop right there. See that horizontal line that cuts our property in half? That is a 52-foot lateral setback instituted by, a lateral restriction, instituted by the DOT. So what that means is vehicles have to pull into us and theoretically Shell and McDonald's, come in at least 52 feet before they're able to turn right or left into our lot or into the Shell McDonald's lot. So you can see that same line. So currently, the Shell and McDonald's is not abiding by that 52-foot lateral access restriction, but we're following it. So that's why you have to come in 52 feet off Highway 20 before you can turn right. So when the easements were originally set up for this property, pre-us buying the property, that entrance egress easement was shut off right at that 52-foot line. So right now, if a car is sitting exactly where Eileen's cursor is, and it's on our property, without any easement right to go into accessing McDonald's property. Likewise, if you move your cursor to the other side of our property line, Eileen, no, just east, there you go, perfect. If our guests leave Culver's and traverse across our property line before they get to that dashed line, that 52 set lateral restriction, technically they're on McDonald's property without an easement. Again, that's happening every single guest that is going to Shell and McDonald's currently. And we've spent a year to try to get and a lot of money with attorneys to try to get that easement extended 25 feet into the property. So everybody was compliant, and they've been unwilling to agree to that. So therefore, on paper, the only legal way to exit this property is to come out to the entrance that we've created to go out to Main Street. But every day, cars are going in and out of that entrance currently. And cars are going to continue to go in and out of that entrance after we're there. And utilize that exit. Even though technically, do we have the deeded access to do it? We don't. But McDonald's currently also doesn't have the deeded access to come into their property through our property. So that makes for interesting politics. But the reality is, I know on paper, everybody has to sit here and say, the only exit out of this property is to Main Street. On paper, they're right. On reality, it's going to be a completely different story every single day, just like it is every single day today.
So, the dollar store is to the left,
Correct.
and you're not going to be sharing their driveway?
Correct.
No, okay.
Because of our drive-through flow. That's the side that our drive-through curb is on, and it would really mess up our drive-through operations and also then cause our traffic to back up and potentially get out into ES and cause a problem with that. So we did talk to Dollar General about accessing an egress access easement with them, and they're willing to sign one, of course, for a price. And then it also, the DOT, if we access that, is going to force some changes in the median out on Highway 20. Again, about $100,000 worth of work. So considering all those facts and looking at our drive-through operations and how excellently this site plan lays out for our drive-through operations, ultimately we decided we didn't want to utilize shared access with Dollar General. And plus, that's part of our bioswale retention in between us and Dollar General right there. So that's one of the areas we're storing some of our stormwater.
Just being upfront, it just seemed like a better spot because then you've got traffic going in and out farther away from that big intersection, but it's not my business, but my opinion.
Any other comments, questions from the board, from the audience?
I have a question, just on the trucking piece. So if you're basing it on the fact that your trucks travel at night, what about all the other truckers that we already have that come through that aren't at night? And if it is a sleeper cab?
Right. We can't prohibit truckers from going to Culver's or McDonald's or anywhere else, or Shell for that matter. I don't have an answer for your question. Ultimately, we did allow for some larger parking stalls for campers, boats, stuff like that, as you can kind of see on the right side of the parking lot. Buses, hopefully we get some buses coming in there. But yes, tractor trailers may come in there and clog up the whole damn parking lot. And we hope they're hungry.
Other questions or comments? All right. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. We'll move on to discussion and possible recommendations to the village board. What is the commission's pleasure?
I'll make a motion to recommend to the village board the approval of the conditional use subject to the terms in the draft conditional use order dated September 7th of 2023.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 12, site plan review for restaurant Culver's Restaurant located at 2557 North Street, RA 4464-00002, East Troy Land LLC, J. Campbell Agent, application 2023-17. I think we've discussed this at length.
So just for your benefit, I did put together a proposed motion for your consideration, but there's actually 26 different terms and conditions. Some of these are pretty standard fare in terms of what has to be done before they can actually start the project. And I just want to make sure that the petitioner has read them.
Yes.
That you understand them.
Yes.
Agreeable?
Yes.
Okay. And if there was ever a place to talk about a developer agreement with regard to the actual, internal traffic circulation, that would be the time, and that could be incorporated if you're so inclined.
Jay, what's your opinion on that? Are you open to a developer agreement?
Okay. Well, has any negotiation, it depends upon the terms. So,
You look like you have a comment.
again, I'll add, we've been at this for over a year to come up with the site plan that we've presented to you. Looked at it from a practicality standpoint, from an operational standpoint, worked with the surrounding businesses to try to keep everybody as happy as they can be. You're not going to keep everybody happy all the time. We haven't asked the village for any participation to get that access out to Main Street. We're willing to pay for the cost and make the modifications to the bank's parking lot as it stands. I know there was talk about the other egress out between the bank and the dental building. We don't want that. The dental building doesn't want it. The bank doesn't want it. We don't want to go through the expense of it. So, but if that's something that there's strong opinions about, then yeah, we're definitely going to be asking about a developer's agreement to how to handle that.
I mean, we're not going to negotiate out those terms here. I guess I'm, especially just from even if you don't change the actual layout, but some of the stop flow, signs and things like that Tim was referring to.
Oh, definitely. We're open to doing any of that.
Yeah, so I think what I'd like to do is propose that you talk with staff, and I mean, it might give us the ability to also work with those surrounding businesses with you as opposed to just it being you. And say, like, this is for the harmony of everybody's traffic.
Right.
So not to try to, like, put you in a corner here, but to kind of make it work for everybody and keep it safe for everybody, because that's really our number one concern. Tim, Eileen, any thoughts or concerns about that? All right, I'll make the motion that we'll approve the site plan. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find, because it's not linked. Where's your proposed motion here?
It's page 4 of the staff report.
It's the one with 26 points in it.
I know. It's like, which staff report? It's not linked on the agenda, that's why I can't find it. There we go. Okay. I will make a motion to approve the site plan as submitted, subject to the listed terms and conditions here, that are 26 of them, and also ask that staff work with the developer to execute a developer agreement.
I'll second.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we're not done with you quite yet. Still got two more items. All right, item 13, sign permit review for restaurant, Culver's Restaurant, located at 2557 North Street, RA 446400002, East Troy Land LLC. J. Campbell Still is the agent. Application 2023-19, discussion and possible action. So you have the report here from Tim and a proposed motion. I guess my question for you, Jay, is I'm assuming Culver's just has a standard sign size. Do they have a smaller sign that fits with this? And I don't know how much bigger this is than our 60 square feet limit.
I believe it fits within your limit. I don't think we've exceeded it. So, again, we build them all over the country, and yes, there's many different sizes, from 120-foot pylons to, 2-foot by 2-foot signs, depending upon where we are in Florida. So, obviously, we like it bigger as better. So,
Tim, which sign was the one that was non-compliant?
So it's the monument sign. It's the one that looks like this. And it's basically, there's a maximum height of 8 feet, and they comply with that. But the actual area, the sign area between the top of the cornice and the brick face down below, that's the sign area, and that can't exceed 60 square feet.
What are we at?
I'm sorry?
How much are we exceeding it by? I didn't even realize we were exceeding it, to be honest. I didn't think we were.
It's in the staff report.
Okay.
Yeah. So, that's something that we can work with, administratively. Obviously, that's just a simple calculation. Again, it's basically all the sign on the monument sign plus all the background brown. That's the sign area. That can't exceed 60 square feet.
We have a Springfield Signs is Culver's national account signage vendor. So quite honestly, that's who reviewed code. That's who submitted this. And quite honestly, I haven't read it. They didn't make me aware. I said, "Are we compliant?" And they said yes. So there must have been an error in their calculation that I'll have to address with them.
Yeah, I'm looking here because on the square footage in their calculation in red, it says total sign face area 57.12 square foot.
And I took the measurements and I looked at roughly it's 85 square feet.
Right. So basically, I think what they did was just kind of draw a line around the electronic message center and then kind of the lettering, and they basically excluded everything else. Oh.
So Tim, do you think this should be better addressed, bringing this back, or addressed with the conditions in your recommended motion?
I think at the staff level, we can obviously measure 60 square feet, and if it's compliant, then it gets approved. It's going to be basically the same sign, except a little bit smaller.
That's right. And we're open to that.
Okay, all right, I just didn't want to
Right.
but again, make sure that you're in agreement with what we're talking about here. Okay.
We'll just have to find out Tim's favorite flavor, make that the first flavor of the day.
And no concerns about brightness on this?
So the sign code does talk about sign brightness. They will have to comply with how much light can cross the property boundary line. There is, that built into the code. So this, that whole section would apply to this sign and every other sign. So there's nothing special at this point in time that has to be reviewed.
So would this basically be the only Culver's sign out there besides something on the building?
Correct.
Okay.
And that's just on 20, not on ES.
Correct.
Yeah.
We have a drive marker on ES though for yours?
I'm sorry?
Will there be a driveway marker
Yes.
on ES?
There will,
Yeah.
correct. Mhm.
So was that part of the sign package? I didn't see that.
You're saying inside the site, or you're saying out at Highway ES?
I think he was asking about on ES.
No, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. No, we do not have anything out at ES. We have oval directional signage inside our site directing traffic to the drive-through and towards exits and things like that. I thought that's what you were more asking about, directional internal to the site.
The reason I asked is if people are going to be pulling into the bank lot thinking they're going to be going to Culver's, or, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
It's just,
We can get them to leave their money at Culver's instead of the bank.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the proposed signs as proposed, subject to the two conditions outlined in staff's report.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion.
Thanks again. I'll be back.
One more. Okay. Item 14, one lot certified survey map to merge two adjoining lots in same ownership located at 2557 North Street, RA 4464-00002, East Troy Land LLC, J. Campbell Agent, application 2023-20. I think we know why he wants to merge the two properties.
You want a motion?
Yes.
Recommend to the village board the approval of the certified survey map based on general and specific conditions listed below.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now I think we're done.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
And just to clarify, this is a recommendation for the conditional use.
Yes.
The village board will take it up at their meeting.
Sure you don't have any operational questions? My daughter was really nervous. I want her to get up here and say something. No?
Sure, what's the first flavor of the day?
Tim, what's your favorite flavor? He looks like a turtle. He looks like a turtle guy.
I did have a question, though. When are you ballpark looking to open?
Approximately August 1st, 2024. Thank you.
Hopefully we'll have a cooler August. Okay. Item 15, concept review for Overlook Ridge, a proposed planned development district consisting of 145 multifamily dwelling units. Saywall Development, application 2023-22. Again, as a reminder, this is a discussion, no action this evening, and I would ask that we keep the comments to the board. We've got our Saywall developers here to walk us through it, so.
So maybe if I could, Mr. Chair, basically I'm going to talk about the process a little bit.
Yes, please, yeah.
So again, what's being proposed is a planned development district, basically a planned unit development, and there are various steps to the process, and it's a three-step process. The first is a concept review, and that's what we're doing here tonight, and essentially it's the opportunity for developer to present their initial plans, okay? As the chair indicated, there are no motions, there's no action. The intent is to hear, to listen, and to offer any kind of observations. Those observations can then be, taken back to perhaps modify their plans or, change, different points, and then come back with a more formal proposal. And that step is a public hearing process, just like a rezoning. And at that point in time, then there would again be a public hearing, public comments made, accepted, and then the Plan Commission would make a recommendation to the village board, and the village board would have the final decision. And then that's basically, setting the basic parameters for the development. And the third step is a final development plan. That's when they come in with all the fine details, all the construction plans. And that's a situation where the Plan Commission makes the final decision on that. So the most important part is going to be step 2, where essentially we're creating a brand-new zoning district for their proposal.
I hope that answers a lot of questions we had about the process, so thank you, Tim. Gentlemen.
Good evening. My name's Art Sawal, and this is?
I am Kevin Sawal.
And I roped him into joining the business 5 years ago. After grad school, he didn't want to work with Dad, but I made him work with me. So do that to your children. A little bit background about us. Eileen, who are we? We're basically a very small boutique developer. What happened was I started a software. I'm an electrical engineer by trade. Worked for Squirty for 10 years. 3 years in Milwaukee, 4 years in Germany because English was my third language. I'm an import. I won't tell you what country. You have to go to our website to figure out what country I'm from. And anyway, I worked there for 4 years. Then Squirty brought me back, and I ended up running their Asia and European operations. And in 1990, I decided to branch off and start my own software company out of my basement, or my sister's basement, I should say. And it grew rapidly. We had offices in China, India, Australia, and Europe. And I sold the company in 2008 and retired and didn't want to work anymore. Became lazy because we had money. And stumbled into development by pure accident. I bought a lot of dirt with the economy tanking in 2008 and 2009, obviously, we're all aware of that. Banks were basically getting rid of their properties, and then I ended up buying dirt, and my wife said, who's sitting over there, why do we own so much dirt? She goes, it's worthless. Well, it really isn't. Better than the stock market. So what happened was, I planned on just buying the dirt and just flipping it, just making money, just like in the stock market. Village of Sussex came to us and they wanted to find out, hey, who's this guy that can drop 7 figures, not even blink an eye? And we had a lot of coffee with them, and they said, hey, why don't you develop this property? And started development by pure accident 10 years ago. And as I said, 5 years ago, Kevin joined us, and he's going to take over the business, or has already taken over the business, because I spend 10 months out of the year in Florida. In fact, that's why I have my vest on. I'm freezing to death.
I have a sweater on too, so I guess I'm not that far from you.
But basically, what we do is kind of unique, is we do our own development, we do our own general contracting, and we do our own management.
And the beauty of that is we're one person, so we're a singular entity throughout the entire process.
He
From
can read my
talking about-
mind.
From talking to us now about what the development's going to be, to the construction part, you're going to contact the same people, to once the tenants are moving in, and if there's an issue, it's the same person. So it's one of us who you'd reach out to.
And the reason we're unique in that a lot of developers out there, the Fiduciaries of the world, Stu Wangards of the world, I'm sure you heard of them, they're very large developers. What they do is they use investors, they use other people's money. We don't, we use our own money. And the way we're set up is everything is owned by the trust. In fact, my wife and I only own 2%, and our 3 children own the other 98%. And the way it's in the trust, it's never going to get sold. That's why we build properties that I think are above the standard of your average developer. And Fiduciary is not an average developer, they're a very good developer. But we build better properties, we make them unique. In fact, one of the things that we're doing right now is in one of the projects in Sturtevant, we've upgraded a lot of the features in that project because we want the projects to stand the test of time. That is absolutely crucial to us because Kevin will be managing these things 20 years from now, and we want to make sure that our maintenance costs are relatively low. So it's like changing oil in your car. If you don't change the oil in your car, you know what happens after 5 years. And that's why we maintain our properties all the time. We upgrade them. Well, if we build them the right way, we're going to have to upgrade them, but we maintain them. And we only build Class A properties. We're not doing Class Bs. We're not doing Class Cs. We're not doing Section 8. That is not our niche. Our niche is luxury properties. So the resident that moves into our properties, the average resident, they're going to spend a lot of money for these folks because they're usually working adults that have little time on their hands, and they spend money in the community. We've seen that in every single community we've been part of so far, that these residents, they spend their money in the community. That is very key. So if you could go to the next. So far in 10 years, I think we've done pretty well. Our total, I ran the numbers briefly as to what our tax bill is, where we hit $250 million in development. It's not too shabby, I think, in 10 years. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk about some of the projects that we've done. And in fact, every single project we've been part of so far, the municipality sought us out because of what we do and how we do it. We maintain excellence. We insist on it. We hold our people accountable. Kevin and I are constantly on the phone saying, this has to be improved, this has to be improved. In fact, we were complaining today, we had a meeting. I said, hey, you know what? When Jordan Love threw that pass to, Malik.
Yeah.
His timing was completely off. He threw that ball a second too late. That's why he missed that ball. I don't know if you guys watched. I'm sure you watched the game. But we're very critical. Just like I'm critical of that pass, I'm critical, and Kevin is critical of our staff to make sure that we exceed all of our expectations. So
They still like working for us, though. So
for you,
they
not
still,
for me.
they still enjoy working for us.
So a couple of projects that we've done, and I'd like to talk about those, this is 73-unit project in Union Grove, which is a mixed-use development, 73 units of townhome-style apartments. and we have a coffee shop, so it's a mixed use, so we have a coffee shop there.
Thanks to that guy, actually, right there. Thanks to Ray.
Finally, Ray, you did something good. And go ahead, next one.
And this is why we like to talk about this project first, because after this, we can tell you we're award-winning developers. So in 2020, the Racine County Economic Development Corporation voted us as the project of the year.
Next one. Mammoth Springs, that's our first project that we did. Consists of 300 units, 40, I can't see because I'm half blind, 42,000 square feet of commercial space. We have a coffee shop there, Ascension Healthcare, Bluetooth Dental.
A restaurant.
Restaurant.
With an outdoor beer garden. We have a gelato cafe and a pizza parlor there as well.
And that generates, tax bill for that is over $50 million.
This is an example of some of the finishes that we use, some of the exterior finishes that we use, and some of the interior finishes we use. So we use all high-end finishes, basically. All of our units have vinyl plank flooring, granite or quartz countertops, high-end cabinets. We try to do stainless steel appliances. This project will have stainless steel appliances as well. And then most of our doors are solid core doors, which are a lot sturdier. So the overall goal is we want to...
Tell them about the black handles. You guys did.
Oh, well, and then we always try to kind of design to like a specific standard of what's kind of in, and now we've gone to black fixtures. So I think that's really cool, and it's really in right now.
Looks really good.
We have a rendering for that later on, but the goal is we try to take things that are timeless, designs that are timeless, that fit in with what the community has here, and then also reduces our maintenance costs down the road, kind of what my dad said.
And one of the things that we also do is, that's why we do not take on investors, probably never, ever will. I don't see a need why we would ever need to. But we can do a project and say, instead of like Fiduciary or Vanguard, they need to do a 12 to 14% return for their investors. Because if somebody drops $500,000 into a fiduciary project, they expect a return on their investment. We don't have to worry about that because our projects are long-term. So if we say, hey, you know what, we're only making 2 to 4% on this project, it's okay, because down the road, we know through the appreciation and market changes, it's going to pay for itself for us. So it's not an issue. We are long-term investors, not short-term investors, because all of these guys, your average developer comes in, they want to stabilize and flip the property. And probably Ray can attest to that, because that's how most of them work. And we're just the opposite of that. That's why I think we've had so much success working with various municipalities around southeastern Wisconsin. Next one. Rock Point Village. This is a development we did, same thing. Lannon approached us. This was a complicated one because we had to acquire numerous parcels. We had to put them together, did a CSM. It's 279 units with an additional 100 units for expansion that will occur in the next 2 years. This project generated $55 million. This one is under construction right now. As you can see, there's the rendering. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, that's our interior rendering there. So you can see we try to design our apartment complexes as modern as possible. This one is 229 units. It's everything from studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms. And this project generated a total of $34 million in value for the village, and there's also an additional 12,000 square feet of commercial space.
Which Ray's going to lease up for
Yeah, and
us.
if you want to ask about how that's going, you can talk to Ray. So this is our site right now. I'm sure you're familiar with it. This is the image from Google Maps. It looks a little different now. Somehow a little bit nicer, but not quite there yet. So that is the site. It's right on Main Street.
Go ahead.
So our total project overview, this is a 4.9, it's a 4.956 acre development. I've looked at this development a long time, and it's about 145 luxury apartment units. It's everything from a mix of studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedroom apartments. The vast majority of the apartments are going to be 1s and 2s, just so you guys are aware. It's really about, I think it's about 3 to 4% studios, and I think like 5 to 6% 3 bedrooms, with just the majority of being in that 1 to 2 range. That's normally how we do things.
Rent prices.
And then the rent prices for each of those, we're looking at about $1,100 for a studio, 13 to 15.
16, 17.
13 to 16 for a 1-bedroom, and then 18 to 21 for a 2, and then anywhere between 32 and 25 for a 3-bedroom apartment. Each unit has a private balcony or a patio area. All the units, what we think is really neat, all the units on the first floor, their patios, they can just walk right outside. So if they have a dog or if they have anything else, they can just kind of use that green space area there. What we also thought was really neat about this property is we kind of looked at the property overall. And when you look at the property, when we first came to the property and we saw everything, we were like, oh man, like what's going on here? And then we walked further back, and as soon as you get past the trees, you go, this is beautiful. I mean, this is it. And that's kind of why we laid out the buildings, we laid them out. And a feature that we thought would really complement that was in the middle of our property, when we go to the site plan in the next slide, is we put a pool and we put an overlook deck, a concrete overlook deck, where we're gonna have gas grills and people can gather and sit and kind of just look out and enjoy that really beautiful view.
So the first time we walked the property, Eileen, you scared the living daylights out of me. That's all I want to tell you. We flew in, Kevin picked us up. I think you and Ray were there, and we walked back there. I'm going, no way, no way. We're not interested at all.
You never walked into that house either. That house had
I did.
No, the what? It had a Hail Satan written on it
no,
with
that
like
one
a
I didn't.
pentagram. That was pretty scary.
We walked
that was
into
the
the other
scariest house I've ever walked into, just so you guys know.
No, the other one we walked in, Mom puts one foot in, you know, being a typical German.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's from Germany, by
Yeah.
the way. She's an import, too. So she puts one foot in, and she goes, whoa, I'm going right back out. But anyway,
Yeah, there's also a short walk to the downtown square, so that's really neat. And we thought that'd be great as well. And then you can talk about it.
Yeah, and we're talking underground parking we have, obviously, and the reason Kevin came up with the name of Overlook Ridge is you're overlooking that ridge. And it's going to be magnificent. You know, the more I visualize it, it truly is going to be magnificent. This project is going to generate a minimum of $21 million. We're obviously willing to commit to a minimum of that for taxes. Next one.
That's our site plan right there. So as you can see, we have, that's the 2 L-shaped buildings that we're proposing with kind of that patio overlook deck in the middle with the pool. The total site plan has a total of 177 surface parking spaces and then 110 underground parking spaces, some of which will have additional storage as well. And that kind of in that top right corner there, if you can see that, that's actually a maintenance garage that we're proposing. So that's where we'd store like our on-site truck or a skid steer for if the landscaper would need that for snow removal.
Definitely will, because one of my pet peeves, when I was younger, I had a plow on my truck, and you got to be able to plow snow properly. You got to have a place where you can put it. So obviously at all of our properties, we have skid steers, because I want that parking space to be cleaned properly. So here's the rendering. We worked with our architect, Adam, a lot on this. Actually, Kevin did more than I did. Go ahead, you talk about it. Most of it
You
is yours.
approved it though, so that's. No, so what we wanted to do here is we kind of took a look at a lot of the buildings that they're doing in downtown Colorado, like Boulder, the Boulder area, and we thought that's a really good look. So we thought, how can we kind of blend kind of that old school look with kind of the old school look of like downtown, small town Wisconsin, and kind of update it a little bit. So that's what we tried to do. The entire building's done in kind of lap siding, which if you go down to your downtown area, a lot of the buildings are lap siding. And then we tried to keep the design as vertical as possible. And the goal with that was the more verticality we have, the more it's going to break up that overall building, so it's not going to feel and look as big as it is. So that's kind of how we came up with that.
Back up, please. So one of the things, obviously, Tim, that you came up with a good idea is on the ends. We added some color there in the windows as well. I think that adds a lot to the building. That kind of gives it a unique look as to what we're trying to achieve. And It is a 4-story building, and really, to make this site financially work, we know the interest environment we're working in today. You can't get any loans under 7%. And the way we maintain our property is we always have full-time staff, numerous full-time staff. So this property would have one full-time apartment manager, a general manager, would have a leasing agent, would have 2 maintenance techs, and a cleaner on staff, full-time. So we would have 5 full-time staff, maybe 4. We'll see. It really depends. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of work to do on these apartments. And if you have something that's smaller, financially just doesn't become viable. Then it makes no sense to build it. So we were kind of playing around with the numbers. Where's this going to land? How is this going to work? And that's what we came up with to make it financially viable for the site as to the costs, rental costs, interest costs, tax costs, all of the maintenance costs, everything goes into it. And that's why we came up with 145 units that makes this project financially viable.
We like to be in kind of that 150 unit range, and this was as close as we could get to that while still kind of not overcrowding the site or doing something.
Right. If we have to do a project that's, I'll say, less,
120, doesn't pencil out.
We walk away. It doesn't
Yeah.
pencil out. It
We just
makes
can't
no
manage
sense.
it. We
No.
can't hire the staff and can't maintain the staff to
No, you
to
can't-
properly maintain the
You
building.
can't make money at it. That's the bottom line. And the bottom line of any business is to make money. We all know that.
So these are some of the amenities that we're proposing. These are pictures of the amenities at some of our other properties. So here at this property, we are going to have a full-size gym with a yoga and a stretching room. So this is professional-grade gym. We always try to encourage residents that you move here, you don't need a gym membership. You can just walk downstairs and use the gym. We're also going to have some outdoor gas grills with an auto shut-off timer.
Absolutely, it's
So-
a must.
Yep. So they automatically shut off, so residents can't just leave them on all day. And those are going to kind of be in that overlook area, that patio area. Our overlook deck, which we've talked a lot about, and we think that's one of the really special features about this site. The pool, our residents love pools, and it's a great activity that you get to use for 4 months in Wisconsin.
2.5.
2.5, if you're lucky. And then we have, people don't really use the pool. They just gather around the pool.
They use the deck. That's
They use the
bottom
deck,
line.
like that's
Nobody
really what
uses
it's about.
pools
Nobody
anymore.
goes in the pool. We're also gonna have a community room. That's a room that residents can rent out if they have a lot of family. Like sometimes our residents are older, sometimes they're younger. They have a lot of family that visit for the holidays. It's a great way to host a Thanksgiving meal or a Christmas meal and invite your family over so they can rent that room. We also have pet wash stations. That's a big hit with people. It keeps the units cleaner. We usually like to do 2 of those in an apartment complex. And then we also have a dog park so that our residents can take their dogs, take them off the leash, let them run. It's a good way to kind of collect the dog waste in one area. We encourage all of our residents to pick up, but obviously it's a good way to kind of collect all the dogs in one area.
Talking about our dog DNA program.
Oh, yeah, we also have a dog DNA program. We're really proud of that. So what we do is we take a DNA swab of all of the dogs that move in. So anytime we find any surprises on the property, we can just swab that, send that in, and we have a 3-strike policy. First strike is $75, second one's $100, third one's $150, fourth one you're gone. We actually ask you to leave. So
we've done that already. We've asked people. People dispute it. It goes, it's not my dog. I said, people go to jail for DNA. Give me a break.
Do you have any playground equipment for kids?
Typically, we do.
Not in this site, though.
Not on this site.
No.
Because I don't think we're going to have a lot of children here.
Yeah.
I just don't see it. I mean, you never say never in life, but I just don't see it.
What is the range of the complex, meaning each individual, say, studio, 1, 2, 3?
And, sorry, I just want to make sure that we keep the discussion, the comments, or we probably shouldn't have those from the audience at this time, I'm sorry, so. But happy to, I know we got a lot of questions too so if you guys could maybe touch on some of those that you heard earlier.
Adam, do you know how many studios offhand do we have in there?
It's a small amount. It's majority. It's probably
I would have to
Six.
pull up.
It's in the
I thought
packet
it's in the site
somewhere.
plan. Yeah, ones and twos is the vast majority.
I think we have, yeah, 6, 5
Yeah,
or 6.
Yeah, 6 studios, you're right, and then probably
I think we have,
4 3-bedrooms.
Yeah,
And the
maybe
rest are
more.
ones and twos evenly split.
I think we have 8,
Is it 8?
maybe? 8,
It's not a lot.
8 3
Because
bedrooms?
the way the building
they're on
is,
the
because it's an
corner, or they're-
L-shaped building, so in order to utilize the space properly, someplace you have to add bigger units. Like we have some really nice size units, very spacious.
So, yeah.
That's it. That's all in a nutshell.
And then that last picture is a really cool picture of our construction site. So if you go back to that slide, I'm really, really proud of that picture. It's a nice one.
Oh,
So-
yes.
So thank you, and let's get to work.
Thank you. I guess I'll just ask, there were a number of questions, though, during the citizen participation. I don't know if you guys can start to try to address some of
Certainly
those.
can. Yep.
Okay.
One of the comments was condos. Condos is just not viable for this site.
And condos with a common area hallway don't work. It doesn't work.
No, doesn't
Dr. Ray?
work. They have to be,
We're just making Ray the bad guy.
no, they don't work. It's not a financially viable option for this site.
Yep.
That was one comment. Height, if we go lower, we lose units. Project just financially doesn't work.
We've also worked with the village quite a bit, and we've had a lot of different site plan variations, and this is really the only one that
See,
we were
and-
able to make financially viable.
And one of the things you have to look at, if we could go back to the rendering, Eileen. Is that it's a 4-story building, yet it's smaller than a 3-story building with a pitched roof. So if you look at a 3-story building and a pitched roof, it'll actually be higher than the 4-story flat roof. So that's why it's kind of a little bit misleading. And we like flat roofs. The reason we like flat roofs is we put all the condensers on the roof. We don't have 145 condensers on the ground. Makes a lot more sense.
There was
Just
some-
makes a cleaner site. And I think, I don't recall what else was there.
I'm trying to remember, both of you had a question, so I'll just ask it.
One quick, so the layout of that property, I'm assuming that part of that's going to get nothing out.
Could you speak up just
I-
a little?
yeah.
Is it going to get removed at all, meaning the certain, the ground that's there? Are you going to have to level it out from the pitch of the lay of land?
Yeah, right now, it's an absolutely filthy, dirty site. It's the only way to say it.
But
We-
the site is on an angle. It's going to stay
Yeah.
on an angle, and it's going to
It's-
actually integrate really well with our underground parking.
We've done test pits, there's garbage everywhere.
Yeah, there's
Concrete
sand.
blocks, you name it. And so one of the things that it's challenging on this site is we have to do what's called geopiers. Geopiers, I don't know if you ever know what geopiers are, but basically you have to go very, very deep down to support the structure itself. So we have to clean everything out. We're going to pull out the rubble, which is concrete blacktop, and we're going to crush it.
We're going to crush it, put it back into the site.
Not
to
haul
use
it
as
off-site.
Clean fill.
Right, so for surface underneath blacktop, and then we have to then do underpinnings, spread footings potentially to support the weight of the building. So we right now we think the site is going to balance. We think it's going to balance.
But we don't know.
But we
until
don't know.
do more
Yeah,
evaluation.
because once you dig, you only find problems. You agrees. Balance means we don't have to haul anything in or off. I think it's very close from our calculations. But again, if you really
From
find,
our ICAP, we just looked at it and dug some test pits.
right, we've dug a lot of test pits.
It's kind of like the DOT's using that area over off the freeway to dump the concrete that they're going to crush up. Same thing, they don't have to haul it way far away.
One last.
Is there any advice from the organization to the village or the town for any kind of funding grants, anything like that?
Yeah, let me just address, so there were some questions about, I guess, one, let's talk about fire. Our fire chief has reviewed this plan with staff, correct, staff? Okay, so no concerns from a fire safety standpoint. I think he gave you some feedback about some piping for each floor, and it shouldn't be a problem. I think the second is, at this time, the village is not, we don't have a development district in place at that. So right now, this is just a proposal. And then three, and sir, I'm trying to remember your question, and please help me with you had something about 50 foot.
Well, I guess my concern is, in reviewing your site, which is impressive, by the way, it looks like a lot of the sites you developed were, I guess I'd call blight zones. This is a residential area, and I don't know if you have any history on what putting a monstrosity like that with high-level rents in the residential area is.
It is a blight zone, actually.
It is.
Yeah, it's classified by the government as a blight zone.
I understand that, but
No.
we have houses and such around that exist.
No.
And the
So-
track record of this type of development in a residential area isn't good for the residential area.
Sir, I will disagree with you 100%. Just drive up to Sussex and just see what happens. No, but I'm just saying, it's just,
Okay.
it's a
Yeah,
similar
I
sized
think it's-
community.
Okay, so I think
Yeah.
we've addressed the question. Thank you. All right. So right now, there is no village investment in this. This is your property, right? This would be a number of parcels that you'd have to combine. That's what we discussed earlier. So it's not just the 1 acre, right?
Correct. It's a CSM.
Right, exactly. So just I know others didn't, so just trying to clarify that for the public, so. Other questions from the commission?
Well, I guess since we're talking about this as a proposal, I understand and I agree with you that you guys probably do quality work. I mean, I could see these buildings look beautiful. You have wonderful amenities. I mean, I got excited when I heard that you had a pizza parlor in one, because I like pizza. And it's beautiful, but I'm just one person up here. Something like this, as beautiful as it is, it really doesn't fit into that area that is there. And I believe that we could probably find other locations within East Troy to house such a thing, but in my opinion, I think something would have to be very scaled down to be in there. We have ordinances for cottage housing or condos, and I understand your point about it's all about profit and it doesn't make sense to do anything like that. But I agree that something has to be there, but I don't think this is the answer for that.
Can we go back to, when you're finished typing notes, can we go back to the CSM? Or I guess the lot map? Yeah, there we go. And I think staff talked to you guys about this too. I think, our other concern is as you come down, so for everybody's benefit, that's north. So as you come down ES or Main Street from the interstate, I don't know what type of landscaping you're looking at there in that green area north of the parking lot, but just kind of like visually breaking that up. I'm a little concerned as you drive through, it's like, and you're going to come past, those other properties, and it's like, and then there's blacktop. So I get, you guys got to have parking there for residents, and you can have underground parking, but how do we visually break that up?
We're going to do a berm with probably some sort of spruce trees or things like
Large
that and
trees.
bushes that are going to be going on that.
A berm is foreseen for that
Throughout the
area.
front of the site.
Yeah. Because we also don't want to look across the street either. So it's
Just a question on this overview plan. On the west end of the building, the closest to the square, What is the distance from ES to the corner of the building there? Is that 25 feet? The left side that we're looking at, that's to the west.
To the lot line?
Well, yeah, from, I guess I'm thinking about the building to the road, roughly.
The building.
Is 53? 60. Okay. And then, so then the one to the west, that's way, that's like double, triple, right? 180 feet?
Which west?
Distance from the building to the road would be 63 feet, and from the building to the west property line would be about 37 feet.
What's your question, 40?
I've heard some people say that this is too close to the road, but what I'm saying is the one corner of the building with the short driveway, I don't know what that distance is.
63 feet.
Okay, then you go to the other side of the building, what's the distance over there?
Oh, that's gotta be like.
Yeah, triple.
That's
yeah.
what I'm asking.
Yeah,
That's-
Yeah.
So I'm trying to ascertain, you know, that building isn't like the one in McGuanago where Kepler's was, right up next to the road.
No, it's
No.
it's set really far back.
It's set really far
If
back.
you look at the grading plan, it just shoots the back end. We've got 10 feet for the fire department, and then it just shoots down.
It's a wetland back there. That's, it's, there used to be a body shop there years ago.
Yeah. That's why it's called Overlook Ridge, is you're overlooking. When you're sitting on that deck, you're overlooking everything. So the buildings are set really far back. As far as you can't go.
As
any
far as
further.
you can go.
Yeah. In fact, there are retaining walls back there.
Other questions from the commission?
So is this a go or no-go with you guys? It has to be this plan at this location, or you guys don't do anything?
Otherwise, Ray gets to sell it. That's correct.
And you would have no flexibility putting this somewhere else?
Probably not. We invested too much money, too much time. I'll tell you, acquiring all of those properties,
And tearing down all those houses took 2 years of work.
yeah, Eileen knows how long it took me to negotiate with the gentleman that owned a lot of that. Unfortunately, he passed away already recently, I just heard. But it was pulling impacted wisdom teeth. And just too much blood, sweat, and tears that was put into this.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like 2 months of work. It was literally 2 years of constant work.
And I appreciate your work that you did, thank you.
Was that 3 properties you mean additional, or?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I believe.
There
Or
was-
6, 5 or
There's
6.
3 houses, one of those, the trucking.
One was the
The
trucking.
truck shop with the apartment on top.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
And then
yep.
and then Gloria's house.
And then Gloria's house, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, and then the house next to that. Yeah.
That was a foreclosure, that was an auction, that was just.
All right, any other questions from the commission for the gentleman? Okay, so Tim, I guess I want to go back to, you kind of started us off with timeline, so if, based on where we're at, could you talk about next steps?
Could you speak into the microphone? We can't hear you. It needs to be about 3 inches from the mouth.
How's that? Better? Oh.
Ran the numbers because we become spreadsheet junkies when we run numbers nowadays. And to Tim's comment, exceptional, we do think we build exceptional properties. Our track record speaks for itself. Anybody's welcome to tour any one of our properties at any time, with a day's notice, please.
They can't, there's no vacancies.
That's true.
Because everyone wants to move in, because they're so exceptional.
You know, you have one vacancy coming up. I was very upset about that. But anyway, I hold them to a very high standard. But basically, we go above and beyond. As Kevin and I are crunching the numbers, our return on this development, believe it or not, is between 3% and 4%. Now, how do you get away with that at a bank? For anybody that's worked with banks and asking the bank for a 20, 30, 40, $50 million loan, you know they're not going to give you that money unless you show a substantial return. The only way we can get that type of money is with my PFS, personal financial statement. Otherwise, we just don't get that money because I have to personally guarantee every single loan. So that's why we go overboard. And, I use the term a little different than exceptional, is I go above and beyond what anybody else would be willing to build. That's how we do things. And that's why we have 100% occupancy rate at all of our properties right now. Typically, Lannon, you pre-leased every single unit in our development before we got an occupancy permit. They were 100% pre-leased.
All 279.
Yes. And that speaks to what we develop and how we develop it.
Is this set up for fire sprinkling?
Yeah, it has to be, yeah.
I understand. I'm asking the question for general information.
Yes.
Tim, I think you had something else.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's been a discussion about creating a TIF district?
At some point, possibly, that may include this area.
Okay, because that's going to be critical, only because in the comp plan, we've got that policy about having a certain percentage of multifamily, and TIF districts for blighted properties is the exception. So I'm not sure what the status of that whole discussion is, because obviously that will impact the revenue to the school district and all the other entities as well.
That sounds like item 18, recommendations for future agendas. I agree. All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay. On to item 16, discussion related to standards for detached garages. We're running very late. Do we want to move 16 and 17 to next meeting?
So moved.
Hang on.
Hang on.
So if I could indulge you for 3 or 4 minutes on
Please.
one of the items.
Please. Which one, 16 or 17?
17.
Okay, what are we doing
I'm
with
sorry,
16?
16.
Okay.
So, property owner came forward. He's on the corner, he's at 2986 Main Street. He's a corner lot. It's an old historic building. It's a red base around the bottom with stucco above. And it doesn't have a garage.
It had burnt down.
It had one, it burnt down. You're the property owner? Yes, sir. Okay, so I'm going to just cut to the quick here, and if you want to fill in the blanks, that's fine. But essentially, the issue is the desire not to attach the garage to the house, just because of the historical nature of the building. Any kind of addition, garage would look kind of odd. But currently, they can build a detached garage, but obviously it's smaller, based on the assumption that there's going to be an attached garage, which won't be the case in this instance. So we would have to figure out some solution if the, Plan Commission is so inclined to, carve out some kind of, exception to this kind of situation, again, where it doesn't make sense to do an attached garage, making the detached garage a little bit larger to offset that situation.
That garage that burnt down that was there was a 3-car garage.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially in the situation of we're rebuilding something, to say like, oh, it was fine before it burned down, but now it's not okay when an owner wants to restore it back, I think is a problem. We need to find a solution to that.
So we would have to, I'll put some pen to paper and come back with some potential language.
Yes, that would be preferable.
So it's going to be a process that's going to take, months and months to kind of work through.
Yeah, I'm completely fine with that. I'm in the planning stages. I just got a roof done on it, so. Can you go? Sorry, just so people are. Sorry, I didn't.
Come on down.
Yeah, so I'm in the planning stages. I just bought the house, loved the house, moved into East Troy, and it's been great. But yeah, trying to match the brickwork to make an attachment, it would look bad. It's hard to match 130-year-old brickwork. And then I got a wife and I got 2 kids, so I don't want to be the guy with bicycles all over the yard or have 3 sheds or something, so. I appreciate you guys hearing me out on that, and hopefully we can get it done. I'm in no rush. Obviously, hopefully within a year or so, a year and a half or whatever, but.
Well, government can be slow, but maybe not that slow. Yeah, I think, Tim, if we come back with some language, that'd be great. Thank you.
I appreciate it, sir. Thank
Yeah.
you. Oh, sorry.
Okay, anything else on item 16, Tim? Okay, item 17, do we want to move that to our next meeting? Yes. Okay, I'll make a motion to postpone, not table, postpone this item to the next meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, any other recommendations for future agendas beyond what Tim proposed earlier? Okay, our next meeting is October 9th, 2023 at 6:30. If needed, I think it is going to be needed. With that, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.